Tony Khan just tried to put on a wrestling show, failed tremendously, furthered nothing that we actually cared about, but we gotta try. We gotta try. Let's talk about AEW Dynamite from April the 9th, 2025. I want people who listen to this, I want you to give me some advice. AEW Dynamite is going to be at the Masonic Temple here in Detroit at some point in early May. So it's like in 3 weeks or something like that. They're bombarding me with ads on Twitter, and they send them to my email, all kinds of stuff. I went to the last AEW show that was in Detroit. It was at Little Caesars Arena. Masonic Temple is a much smaller building. It's actually right off Wayne State University campus where I went to college. So it's in my area. I did go to the TNA pay-per-view. I've been to GCW events. I'm not actually motivated to go to an AEW show, especially looking at the cards that they've been putting together. I can't imagine there's anything that's going to happen on an AEW show that I need to see in person. But I will give you guys the option. Do you want me to go to AEW live? Or, you're not concerned about whether you get the real live experience. Even though the review is probably going to be the same anyway. Except for I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about the venue and seating and stuff like that. So basically, I just want to look for some feedback, because I don't know how much the tickets are either. I didn't even bother to look. I'm really short on cash, so it's kind of like I do want to do it, but I really don't want to spend the money. And it's the same thing with the Wu-Tang Run the Jewels concert, which I absolutely feel like I have to do. But unless I got a rich uncle or something I don't know nothing about, that's when it's going to be tough to do, I think. But I'm going to leave it in y'all's hands. Let me know if I should do it or not. And I'll check to see what the ticket prices are. And if they're reasonable, I may go. But let's talk about Dynamite in its totality. Because they had a show. It aired. They tried to book this thing well. You can see they put some effort in, at least for the first 30 minutes. It looked like they really was trying. They tied everything together and wanted stuff to blend together so beautifully, according to them. But they started the show with Jon Moxley versus Katsuyori Shibata, which I went on a rant. I don't know, out of nowhere. It was just Thursday, about how much I greatly dislike generic Japanese pro wrestlers and how we need to stop fetishizing these generic Japanese pro wrestlers. Katsuyori Shibata is such a performer. He is generic chop kick Japanese pro wrestler. That's pretty much it. Even when he was healthy, 100% healthy, he was having good matches, but they were just good matches and there was no personality to be found anywhere in them. So, he's an oral farming guy. He folds his arms and he has a towel. That's his gimmick. But this thing with Jon Moxley was not good. It was awful, actually. This is the kind of match Jon Moxley has today. He choked out Katsuyori Shibata after doing some really bad grappling. It didn't even look legitimate. This was the shits. It was bad. At least 4 or 5 years ago, Jon Moxley would have worked a lot harder when it comes to this kind of match. But today, he doesn't feel the need to. He's wrestling in combat boots and jeans. It's really ridiculous. It's utterly pathetic. This sucked. Now, this is kicking off the feud between the Ops and the Death Riders, which is disgusting because the Ops they're not people I want to see. I want to see Samoa Joe. I'm not really thrilled about Hook. But I guess it's moving Hook up the ladder, I guess. Anyway, Shibata, Jon Moxley, and let's move on. So the Young Bucks came out there. Moxley was so disgusted at this, he left. He just took off. The Bucks decided they're going to explain why they screwed over Swerve Strickland. He said, 1, they did it for their good buddy Hangman Page, and 2, they did it as a peace offering to the Death Riders because they have a lot more in common than they think. And the Death Riders want AEW to be better, and they also want AEW to be better. So they want to talk business with Jon Moxley. I will say this. I'll give them some credit. This actually makes sense. I said this before when they first showed up. I said, well, isn't the Death Riders doing the same thing the Elite were trying to do? Just doing it in a different way. And it seemed like somebody smartened up. It was like, yeah, it is the same thing. So they're going in the same direction. I don't see how the Elite and the Death Riders can work together, but they do have similar goals. I say this, not wanting to see any of these people, by the way. I always review the show as it is and give my thoughts and commentary as it happens. But don't mistake, me saying, hey, you know what, that's a good idea, for me saying I actually want to see the Young Bucks, because I don't. If I never saw these motherfuckers again, it would be too soon. So, for the record, I don't care about the Young Bucks. So, instead of getting Moxley, the Young Bucks ended up getting Kenny Omega. So, Kenny Omega came out there, mentioned that the last time he saw the Young Bucks, they attacked him. And he said since then he's forgiven them, but he doesn't want revenge. He came back to AEW to restore the feeling. And then he said that, the Young Bucks, he told this really bad, meandering story. Kenny Omega is not a good promo, okay? He is, he's not even serviceable. He's NXT bad at promos, all right? For starters, he said something about, you guys never forget your friends. But, you guys never came for me. You never came for me. I was like, it takes on a different connotation when Kenny Omega says stuff like that. Ugh. But then he starts talking about Shih Tzu dogs pooping and friends and video games, and I was just like, what the? Why are we talking about this? Now, this is absolutely something that if it had happened on Evolve or NXT, they would never shut the hell up about it. But because it's Dynamite, people are going to pretend this didn't happen. It's going to hand wave how bad this promo was. It was the shits, for the record. All right? Not good central. Right in the middle of not good. Okay? This is the shits. I understood what he was going with it. It still sucked. Because the people got lost. When you're talking and holding people's hands through this promo, they got lost. They're like, why are we in Shitsville? Why are we talking about Shih Tzu dogs again? What video games were you playing? Was it Mike Tyson Punch-Out? Was it GoldenEye? Was it a Nintendo 64? Was it a Super Nintendo? What was it? How old were you? What year was this? And we're forgetting that the Young Bucks are standing in the ring, sucking their teeth, trying to make sense of this as well. In any event, he talks about the Young Bucks making AEW worse. So he could have just said that, right? That you guys are making AEW worse. You're supposed to be making it better. You're making it worse. But instead, he meandered. He took us on a road to nowhere. Good old bridge to nowhere. Jesus Christ. Saying that then he tried to explain why the Young Bucks were shredding documents. He was like, we get it. You guys are shredding financial statements. You're trying to cover up all the yachts and private trains that you've been taking, your OnlyFans subscriptions. And I'm like, what the huh? And even the crowd is like, Everybody is like, what are you talking about? I forgot all about that, to be quite honest. But he didn't forget. So they were trying to cover up plot holes. Like what were these documents the Young Bucks were shredding? This was months ago. It never played a part into the story until now. Right? Nobody ever asked. It was like somebody like a Erwin R. Shyster back there looking at their reports, and then they had to go ahead and shred these documents. And then you shredded the documents. So what? There's probably some kind of electronic trail that they could catch that you've been subscribing to BigBootyBitches.com or something like that. You can't get away from this. You shredding paperwork. It's not 1987. It's not like you shredded the paperwork and it's gone forever. No, there's if you've been using direct deposit, it's just gonna go to the bank, brother. So no, this is not gonna work. It all ends with Kenny Omega wanting to fight the Young Bucks. That's what happened. He's going to get in the ring. He's going to fight them. Then Okada comes out, and as Okada comes out, Swerve shows up. Swerve's theme music plays. He comes to the ring with a chair. The Young Bucks and Okada run away. Swerve announced that it's buck hunting season, and he's going to be taking out these Young Bucks. They should have left him alone. He's attacked by the muscle-bound midget, Mighty Mouse himself, Pac, who proceeds to, I guess, tear his ACL in the match after this. Pac versus Swerve Strickland is the second match on the show. The match I actually wanted to see. And it's cut short because Pac got injured. You're going to hear this quite a bit. Hasn't Pac been injured every single year of AEW's since they existed? He's been hurt every single year, right? I know that there was a short amount of time there where he was sitting at home because of COVID. But I think pretty much every year AEW has been in operation. Pac has been pushed, got a title of some description, maybe a tag team belt usually, and then he got hurt. It's about time for it to be over for him. This is one of the guys, he has been one of the biggest disappointments in AEW. I was actually looking forward to, and I swear to God, they were telling me year one that Pac was going to get the push that he deserves. You were going to wash all the bullshit that you learned about Neville. All of that's going to get thrown in the garbage. You're going to see how tremendous he is. And then he had that match with Kenny Omega. I think it was like 30 minutes or something like that. It was like a time limit draw or something. And everybody believed that he was going to be the guy. And then they started talking about All In, the big show in London. They say, oh, well, it's got to be time to put the belt on Pac at that show. I don't even think he was wrestling on the show. And now he's further away from the belt than he ever has been. And now that Will Ospreay's come in, nobody's even talking about putting the belt on him. He's simply good match guy. And now he can't even stay healthy to have good matches. Look, if you're Tony Khan, cut your losses, get rid of this guy. You know, the injuries, just the sheer amount of injuries. For starters, there's no evolution to his character. It's been 5 years. And he keeps just jumping from tag team to tag team. He can have good matches when he's by himself, but he's not healthy. This is a waste of time. This Pac thing, you tried it for a couple of years, it's over. If his contract is on his way up, let him go work in TNA. Or let him go work in Japan or something. He's not worth the money. Right? So Swerve wins with the Swerve Stomp because Pac can't go. All right, it's over. So later in the show, Hangman Page comes storming into the show because he's a very bad actor. Okay, he's terrible. He's looking for Swerve. He can't find Swerve. He finds Nana. He tells Nana he wasn't trying to help Swerve, and he's going to get into the Owen, and Swerve better not try to interrupt this. And Nana just listens, and as Hangman is walking away, he's like, hey, look, I just can I tell you something? I want to tell you this for about a year now. He said, I really regret. And he's about to say what we did. And Hangman like, no, you don't get to do that. Which is classic, like, white liberal speak. You don't get to, is like white liberal speak. Everybody else would have been like, what? You regret it? Yeah, you regret it because I kicked your monkey ass after that. But, they're doing this thing where Swerve and Nana are showing some level of contrition, and it's not like they want forgiveness. They just kind of want to get that guilt off of them. Hey, Hangman, look at you. You're a mess, man. You're a giant ball of fake rage. Somebody needs to help this guy out. And Nana tried to apologize, and Hangman don't want to hear it. So that's all of that. I actually like it. It's interesting, showing that Swerve didn't apologize, but Nana kind of did. And Hangman cut him off before he did apologize. And it's interesting that he cut him off before he apologized, because if he actually does apologize, now you have to deal with whether you're willing to accept the apology or not. As long as he doesn't actually apologize, then you will feel comfortable being enraged, which is the point here, is that they are trying to help Hangman with his rage. Hangman, to my knowledge, at least I don't remember, I don't think he addressed the Young Bucks and what they said at all. So there's that. Oh my goodness, I completely and totally forgot to mention that the main event of the show was actually tied into the opening segment. And that is that Samoa Joe and Hook defeated Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. Geez, this is more Ops versus, Death Riders shit. This match was trash, obviously. I have no interest in watching Yuta at all, period. I like Samoa Joe, but it's 2025, not 2005. And Claudio, phew, Vince was right about him, right? Vince was 100% correct about Claudio. Very unfortunate. But I can't tell you I watched too much of this match. There's just not enough to see. There's not a lot to see here. Claudio, I mean, he's one of those guys. Another one, much like Pac, much like, everybody who is supposed to be a fumble by the old man. He has proven that Vince was right. He ain't got it. It ain't working. The Claudio experiment ain't working either. But he's a very likable guy. And at least he's sturdy and dependable. I wouldn't fire him, but I see why he was in the tag divisions and a mid-carder forever, despite the many pushes that he did get in an attempt to raise his stock. But Wheeler Yuta is just an anchor around everybody's neck. There's nothing you can do with this guy. He's too small. He's ratty. There's just nothing you can do. After the match, Jon Moxley gets choked out by Katsuyori Shibata from behind. He was trying to interfere in the match anyway. Samoa Joe took a nap. I don't know where he went. And Claudio hits the neutralizer on Hook on an open chair. So like the chair's legs and stuff was punched him in the gut. And he rolled out of the ring and just left him there. And he was in trouble. I'm like, this kid probably should get some medical help. His guts just got rearranged by Claudio in this chair. Samoa Joe, however, giant grape that he is, just decided to yell about the Death Riders being cowards and wanting the Trios championships. I almost for a second was like, oh, is Samoa Joe going to challenge for the world title? And it was like, those Trios championships. And I was like, you're shooting low. You're shooting pretty low there, Joe. But why am I surprised about that? No. Is the Ops a good opponent for the Death Riders? Look, man, I don't care about that shit. I don't care about these Trios belts. I guess it's good that they have these things in rotation. But all in all, I don't think anybody cares about these belts. And I think we're all better off without them. And we're certainly better off without anything that requires us to watch Wheeler Yuta. I think we're much better off without Wheeler Yuta in our life. Every single one of us. So I think I've thoroughly wrapped up everything from the first two segments. So now we can move on to the $400,000 match, where the winning team is going to get $400,000. It's Team Ricochet versus Team Ospreay. Team Ricochet consists of Lio Rush, Action Andretti, the Beast Mortos, and Ricochet, versus Team Ospreay, which is Mark Briscoe, Speedball Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Will Ospreay. They're basically handcuffing Kevin Knight to Will Ospreay. Why? Why can't he wrestle singles matches and win? Why couldn't he wrestle, I don't know, Action Andretti in a singles match and beat him? Just to showcase this guy. Why? Why is he in this match? Why is this match happening? Well, this match is happening because Tony Khan says he's going to give the winners $400,000. Huh? Why? Why would he do that? Why all of a sudden we're going to offer these guys money for a match? Shouldn't we be doing that all the time then? Shouldn't it be like regular prize fights? I like that. Maybe there should be a prize fighting champion in AEW. You know, a guy who only fights for big money. When Tony Khan decides to do something like this, I'm going to give you $250,000 if you kick this guy's ass. Hell yeah. You know, a butterbean type guy, strongman type competitor. They probably would never work out in AEW, but I mean, we're going to pay people to go out and have matches. Why the hell would they be 8-man tags? Anyway, this came with a funny little babyface promo about what would you buy with $100,000, and Speedball's like he's gonna buy some shoes. It's like you own shoes, you just don't wear them. Kevin Knight, I forgot what he said. Don't really pay attention. The same thing with Ospreay, but Mark Briscoe starts talking about diversifying his portfolio, and I'm looking like, for starters, I know it was a joke. Secondly, you should not make stock jokes in this economy. Right now is not the right time for you to be making jokes about stocks. All right, there's people out there crippled over this stock market downslip. Read the room, Mark. Read the room. And if you think I watched this match, you out of your goddamn mind. This is all a bunch of midgets running around doing flips. I mean, what did you think this match was going to be? I didn't care about this at all. Every time I looked at the screen, there was some munchkin zooming across the room. Like, what the fuck kind of match structure is this anyway? It means nothing because the shit is a work. They're not getting $100,000 each to work this one match. And if Tony Khan does do that, he's a mark on a level not seen before in human history. So you know it's not real. Secondly, there is no storyline that's going to come out of this. Third, they're not going to put together a match that you actually want to see. Nobody in this thing is feuding. It's just, well, I guess Ospreay and Ricochet kind of had something going on, but that was months ago. You know, and they're not going to do it. You know what they're going to do. You know when Ricochet, Will Ospreay, Speedball, and Leo Rush is in this match, there's going to be a lot of goddamn running, right? A lot of running and a lot of flips. And then I can tell you exactly when I mentally checked out, and I stopped looking at the screen. When Ricochet did a flip over the top rope, and everybody was doing dives, Ricochet did a dive over the top rope. He missed all the baby faces. It ended up landing on his feet. He looked at the camera in complete surprise, like, huh? Where is everybody? And then everybody, Speedball, Mark Briscoe, Ospreay, Knight, they were all spitting in their hands and rubbing their hands together, and they all smacked him across his bald ass dome at the same time. It was a funny spot, but it was exactly what I needed to see to not watch the rest of this match. So I do know that Will Ospreay's team won. Who cares, though? Not me, not you, nobody. Nobody gives a shit. So they announced to us that Edge is out indefinitely. Tony Schiavone says he's disappointed in Dax, disappointed in Cash. This is the most disgusting thing he's ever seen, which cannot be true. He watched WCW. And then he said that he knows that even Dax's daughter is disappointed. And I was like, oh boy. Oh no. He knows what's going to happen on Collision. Tony Schiavone, what do you mean? You mentioned my daughter on TV. Why would you do that? Don't you know I'm a good daddy? I've been trying to be nice, and you all I want to do is make take care of my daughter, and look what you did. Why would you mention that? Oh boy, jeez, out indefinitely. That means he's got to take a month off. He'll be back in June. He'll be back in June. But what are you going to do with FTR until then? Oh, you do realize that they have to stick around until then. Who are they going to feud with? If Edge didn't have any friends and nobody's angry about what you did to Edge, no baby faces are mad about what you did to Edge, then who are they going to feud with? Did you think about that? Was there any thoughts about that? No? Okay. Hey, you're the professional. I'm just a guy on the internet, brother. All right, the Hurt Business came out to celebrate their victory. MJF crashed the party. Says that Tony Khan wanted him in the Owen cut, but he says he's not going to do that. He's not going to sweat. He's going to work smart, not hard. And now that he's in the Hurt Business, he's going to jump to the top of the line. He asks what he got to do to get initiated into his here group. Lashley was not thrilled about this at all. Not happy. Lashley says that MJF tried to help them but didn't get the job done, which proves that they don't need him. MJF was like, "Oh, but I helped though," and Lashley like, "But you didn't help though. Your help failed." MVP said he's got to get 3 thumbs up in order to get into the Hurt business. He got 1 because MVP's thumb was up, but Shelton Benjamin gave him a thumbs down, and Lashley is already a guaranteed thumbs down. So MJF feelings hurt. He got upset and left. He caught up with them later as Lashley was trying to talk to MVP about how much he does not like MJF and doesn't trust him. But Shelton Benjamin called him George Costanza. He called MJF George Costanza and then said that he finds him funny. Now, why would he call him George Costanza? Because he got hair plugs? No. What are about these things are the same, you know? I don't think George Costanza was even Jewish. I think Seinfeld was the Jewish one, right? I love that show, but hey, I think Costanza's family was supposed to be Italians, right? And Jerry's family were the Jews. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, Lashley is up. He's read his Farrakhan, and MVP apparently is gonna. He hasn't opened up a final call in a second, so he's going to be friends with the Jew, while Shelton Benjamin just finds him entertaining. Shelton Benjamin's going to talk Lashley into maybe, being okay with MJF. And as they walk off screen, they're not off screen 2 seconds before MJF shows up, which means they're in the same room, right? They're in the same room. Even if you leave from one side and somebody comes from the other side, if I can't be out of sight that long, right? Very weird. And I only mention this because usually it's not worth talking about because it's TV, but we know that Lashley is angry at MJF, and he came in the same way that they left, so he had to walk past them. I don't get it. Anyway. MVP wants to know why Lashley is treating him like a bitch. And MVP says, "Look, man, it ain't like that. We ain't not calling you no bitch. We ain't treating you like no bitch." He said that this is business. He says, "Find out what your consumer wants and give it to them." So he's telling MJF the secret to winning Bobby Lashley over is you got to figure out what Bobby Lashley wants. Then you got to give it to him. What does he want? Well, Bobby Lashley gotta want the AEW World Championship, right? Maybe they're going to do the exact same thing they did with The Miz, where they make a deal. We will help you get the World Championship, but you gotta give Bobby Lashley a title shot once you got it. That is a very simple deal to make. And that Faustian bargain was one of my favorite things about Thunderdome era WWE because of how well they put that together with The Miz having all these excuses why he couldn't defend the title and he kept putting it off. And then they had the Doomsday Clock where The Miz had to defend the title, or last he was going to, eat him alive. And then, of course, he eventually won his first world title from The Miz, which was amazing. I remember that day. That was a good day. Great day. I don't think they'll do the same thing here because MJF is too valued in AEW, but I can see him making a promise to give Lashley a title shot if he wins it, if he helps him win it. But the MVP MJF relationship, I like it. I like MJF trying to take shortcuts to get to the world title. He doesn't want to work hard. This fits well into his character. It fits well into him being a heel, and all the other heels can appreciate it. He's looking for a shortcut. Now, the crazy thing is, the shortcut is actually the long way, because if he'd have been winning matches and just doing his thing, he probably could have been in title contention by now. But since he doesn't want to wrestle, it probably would take him not nearly as much time to win the Owen and just win the thing straight up than it is to try to impress Bobby Lashley, right? Like, he could have already been through round 1 or something like that by now if he'd just went through the Owen cut. But, it's interesting that this is what they've chosen to do. And at least in terms of storytelling, it's been pretty fun. We're going to skip the Megan Bayne Penelope Ford thing because there's nothing there really, except, Megan Bayne shall return. Who cares? Chris Statlander defeated Thunder Rosa in the Owen Cup tournament match. It was okay. A very stiff tombstone pile driver at the end there. Toni Storm was on commentary talking about her big package that she defeated Megan Bayne with. She's been making a lot of sexual innuendos and stuff like this all the time. It's just part of her gimmick now, I guess. Statlander and Thunder Rosa, man, Thunder Rosa feels also like one that's probably spinning her wheels in AEW. She might need to step out. And look, I like Thunder Rosa, but clearly she peaked 2 or 3 years ago, and the company has moved on, and they're not interested in her. Same thing could be said for Jamie Hayter, where she's at this point just wasting her time. Thunder Rosa shows up. She grabs a sign called, what does the sign say? Women's Wrestling Matters or some dumb shit. I mean, wrong message. You should be focused on winning the world title, not on women's wrestling, which shouldn't mean anything in kayfabe. It should be all about Thunder Rosa winning or Chris Statlander winning or whatever. So Statlander winning was, in my opinion, the right decision. I do like that. Statlander and Toni Storm as the main event of All In, or one of the main events of All In, is interesting. However, Athena will be wrestling whoever her opponent is this weekend, Harley Cameron. And the winner will wrestle Mercedes at the Spring Breakthrough show, which is the show where Dynamite officially passes Nitro. And it seems, now again, if I was booking it, I would have Athena beat Mercedes at that match. And then Mercedes' winning streak is broken. That would give Athena the right to fight Mercedes for the title. Then Mercedes would beat her for the title. And then you would do on Athena versus Mercedes, title for title, where Mercedes puts all her belts on the line versus the belts that Athena has. And you would do that at whatever pay-per-view is coming up. Maybe with that Double or Nothing or something. And then you do it 2 out of 3 falls or something like that to really put some spice on it. I would do that. And I don't think either one of them should be wrestling Toni Storm for the belt. I would find a unique way of getting Athena out of the tournament, maybe having Mercedes cost her the match. But to me, if they're going to have this match, I think it's next week that they're going to have it, Athena should win it. I think that you're really doing yourself a disservice if Mercedes is just going to beat everybody. She's got to put somebody over, all right? And she's not going to lose the belts. It's a tournament match. So right away where Athena can beat her, even if she has to beat her with her finish, or if you want to, be creative, a backslide or something, just so Athena can pin Mercedes. Mercedes' character has to now deal with losing. She cost Athena the rest of the tournament, and then we spin their feud out of this tournament. That seems to be the best thing to do, because it was probably a mistake to put them in the tournament in the first place. So that would probably be the smarter thing. The other side of the bracket, which has Statlander and God knows who else, I'm not too concerned about that side. And to be quite honest, considering I don't think Toni Storm is going to wrestle Athena or Mercedes, I don't really care about that other side of the bracket either. It seems to me that the important bit here is to get Mercedes and Athena out of the tournament and get them onto their own track where they can feud between the two of them. For the record, though, I do think Chris Statlander deserves better. I'm not sure what you can do. They tried everything. They tried turning her heel. That didn't stick. Now she's a baby face, but she's not the most over of baby faces. She's not a strong promo. She doesn't have a strong character. There's something there. There's building blocks of something interesting there with Chris Statlander. but she doesn't have a built-in gimmick like Megan Bayne. Like Megan Bayne came into the company with a gimmick. It's something that she could play off of at the end of the day, something she can bounce off of. While Chris Statlander doesn't have that anymore. She was an alien first, and it was goofy. But now she's not even an alien. She's just kind of Chris Statlander from the block, and it ain't really working out. So maybe she needs to gimmick it up a little bit. I don't know. But I was hoping that Chris Statlander would actually... I'm glad to see she's moving forward in her career. Like, she's not just losing to the mid-carders for the TBS belt. But at the same time, she's in this position because she's beatable. So that's unfortunate. Don Callis says that he's open for new prospects due to injuries. I don't even remember who's injured in the Don Callis family. Who the hell is even in it? He said there's multiple. Oh, yeah. Brian Cage, who sucks, blows at the same time. And Lance Archer, who is one of the most useless sacks of garbage in all of pro wrestling. Oh, my God. He's a bookshelf with a heartbeat. Lance Archer is the shits. I'll say again for the people in the back, Lance Archer is the shits. I'm sure you heard me that time. Next, Chris Jericho, very disappointed with Big Bill and Brian Keith. Told them he was disappointed in them, but Big Bill stood up to him. Said that he came to join this group to learn, but not to be a punching bag. So if you're going to blame and berate us, tell me now so I can just leave. I'm like, you're 7 feet tall, bro. Just, if Jericho gets mouthy with you, just, plant his ass upside down in the middle of the ring and call it a day. You're gigantic and muscular. Why are we going through all this? Brian Keith is over there having a conniption because he's been pillow talking or whatever with Big Bill. They've been sending mean texts about, Chris Jericho. And now it's time to really confront Jericho with this. And, Big Bill is talking. And Brian Keith's like, no, what do you mean? That was between me and you. I respect Chris Jericho. Oh, shut up. Jericho didn't berate them because he didn't want to have to deal with Big Bill. But he did say he was disappointed. And this led to him being very angry. And so he smashed the TV set, the Geratron 6000, smashed it with a bat, started hitting other things with bats throughout the show, and saying that he's disappointed in them, and until they change that, it's best that he's not around. So he's leaving them to fend for themselves, I guess. I don't know, man. Look, here's the thing. Jericho has had a stable every single year that AEW has been in existence. He's been dealing with some kind of stable. And every single time, it ends up the exact same way. Why does nobody remember this? Like the Jericho Appreciation Society, the Inner Circle, all these groups have been in existence the entire time. And it's always been Jericho with a big heater, which is usually Jake Hager. Now it's Big Bill. Some small guy who everybody thinks is great because he was good on the indies. Sammy Guevara. Now it's Brian Keith. And then there's Chris Jericho, who is a world champion or a top guy, and it's their job to keep him in position. It's never really a situation where Jericho actually elevates anybody. Never. Never, ever, ever has Jericho elevated anybody in AEW. It's been 5 fucking years. His stables have not elevated a soul. The only person who was prospering after being in a stable with Chris Jericho has been Santana, who left the company. He took the fuck on off in order to, rebuild his career. Even Sammy Guevara, who won singles titles. You probably don't even remember that he won these singles titles because he's been off TV for like 2 years. This has been the most utterly pathetic, stupid, and pointless stuff. Jericho's like, he's good at doing things and reinventing himself and getting himself on TV. He has been terrible at elevating other people. Terrible. He can put a spotlight on you. like he did with Sammy Guevara. He could put a spotlight on you like he did with Daniel Garcia. He could put a spotlight on you like he did with Big Bill. But the issue is, soon as you leave Chris Jericho's orbit, the issue is going to be, it did not work. It's the same thing that happened with The Miz. I tell people all the time, Jericho is one of the greatest professional wrestlers of all time. He is the talent in these storylines. He is the talent. Everybody serves him. He is giving you the rub. You're nothing without him. That's why this thing never works without Chris Jericho. Just like the Miz angles don't work without the Miz. There's a reason why they don't work without the Miz. Because these guys have some kind of illusion where they can get you to believe that these other people are good. Or they can make something that's terrible into something bearable and get you to buy into these guys. And then when Jericho removes himself thinking, I built this guy. No, it just goes right back into the toilet. The thing is, and I don't think Jericho's even as good at it as The Miz is. The Miz is really good at getting other people over. Jericho, not so much. He's been doing this for 10 years now, Jericho. You know, he did it with AJ Styles. When AJ Styles came into WWE, he did the Y2AJ thing, where Jericho basically gave him the rub, leading to their match at WrestleMania, which was it was just okay. It wasn't bad, it was just okay. But it's what Jericho does. He gets in with somebody, gives them the rub, but it mostly just benefits him because it puts him in a good position. It's like, the thing with him and Kevin Owens, right? It put him in a good position, where he thought he was going to be wrestling for the Universal title until they took it and gave it to Goldberg. Because he thought, like, hey, that's why he was so offended and that's why he left, right? And it helps him, but it doesn't help the other guys. And it's partially because Jericho is a leech. Unlike The Miz, who pours and pours and pours into the other people. Like, he has given, and I'm talking up The Miz because it's true. The Miz, he utilizes the way he utilizes himself. He takes bumps for these guys. He gets comeuppance from these guys. He's lost to pretty much everybody he's ever been in a stable with. They beat him up, abandon him, or whatever. Unlike Jericho. Jericho doesn't always do jobs for these guys. He doesn't always do anything for anybody. But he's in these stables clearly with the intention of making them stars and failing to do so each time. And it's ridiculous that he keeps getting these opportunities. It's ridiculous that it keeps happening. This shit never works. It always works with Jericho being a bigger, more interesting character than the people that he's dealing with. And that's why folks are so sick of it. Because they're like, man, Jericho was really trying to help these guys. Was he? Really? Because it didn't seem like it to me. It seemed like Jericho's basically using them to stay on top. Unlike The Miz, who literally are trying to use these other people to get them forward. And it just fails. But it's failing for the same reasons that the people that you put with a guy like Miz or the people that you put with a guy like Jericho are people who can't make it on their own. That's why you put them with Miz. That's why you put them with Jericho, because they can't make it on their own. I hate people think they're going to say, oh, Carmelo Hayes can make it on his own. I don't know. But Jericho, dealing with these guys, this is pretty much over for them. If Jericho pulls the plug, it's over for these guys. You can cancel Christmas. And I want to see how many people who loved Brian Keith actually, they counted him as one of the black men on the pay-per-view, right? Let's see what happens when there's no more Jericho Appreciation Society. Let's see where he ends up. All right, that's Dynamite. It sucked. It was an incredibly boring show. There's not even anything. And see, look, here's a bit. AEW did a brand split without telling anybody, So now there's people who pretty much only show up on Collision. So I was indeed interested somewhat in the FTR angle and what they're going to do with Edge. But it turns out FTR are Collision guys, so I have to watch Collision to know that. But nobody ever said like Collision and Dynamite are two separate shows. You know, they never said that. Adam Cole showed up on here, but just to tell us that they're the Undisputed Paragon or something stupid like that. I don't want to watch these guys. You know, I don't want to watch Roderick Strong. I don't want to watch Kyle O'Reilly. There's just not enough tea in China to get me to watch these fucking people, okay? So then there's that. So to me, it felt like they missed an opportunity because you had people like Kevin Knight and Megan Bayne who made appearances on the show, but you could have done something to get their heat back. You know, rather than booking that really stupid 8-man tag, you could have done something where Megan Bayne worked with somebody to get her heat back. You could have had Kevin Knight win a singles match, you know, just to get his heat back and start building people up the right way. You know, letting them talk, you know, again, characters and storylines and stuff like this. It just felt like it felt like an epilogue to Dynasty. Like, okay, Dynasty happened. Now we're resetting storylines. Now we're gonna continue to build the Swerve Elite thing, you know, Swerve and the Hangman, the Swerve and the Young Bucks. And then Omega and the Young Bucks. We're gonna deal with that. We're gonna tangle some of that stuff together, but the bulk of the show is disconnected crap, like random Adam Cole promo, random Megan Bayne promo. They did connect the Hurt Business stuff, which was appreciated. But they then had that 8-man tag that lasted for like 3 segments that really didn't seem to go anywhere. Not having any promos or angles or anything for Thunder Rosa and Chris Statlander, I think hurt that match because it's babyface versus babyface. So you didn't do anything to make that match interesting or spice it up or anything like that. And that's something that wrestling is really missing, man. Like, I'm just going to tell you this. You know, if you got this far, it's probably because you like the sound of my voice. I was watching WrestleMania 6, right? And everybody knows, if I say WrestleMania 6, the first thing coming to your mind, the Ultimate Challenge. And I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about Stupendous, WrestleMania 38. It was the last WrestleMania with a headline where there was hype behind it. There was something big. It felt like a major event. And I realized, like, man, WrestleMania 39 didn't have that. It had WrestleMania Goes Hollywood, but it wasn't special. And WrestleMania 40 was WrestleMania XL, but it was still nothing special. And now WrestleMania 41, nothing special at all, even less hype than 40 and 39. And I realized, like, man, AEW doesn't have any kind of hype. They don't hype these shows at all. There's no taglines. There's no special anything about these shows. It's just, what match is Tony Khan going to book for the show? So there's no anticipation. You know, there's no energy behind the product. This is a big, big problem. It's a problem in WWE too. It's a bigger issue for AEW because they're a smaller promotion. Everything feels so drab and everything feels so lifeless. Even if something was interesting, it's not though. But even if it felt interesting, you wouldn't get excited for it because there is no excitement to be had. There is no oomph to the show. Even something like the Death Riders theme song, it brings you down. Do, 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 do. And like, just hearing that, I was like, oof. Like, just listen to it. Like, when somebody's talking and then the Death Riders theme song plays, dun, 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 it's bringing you down. Right? Like, it's dragging you down. That's a problem in the long run because people like hype. They say that they don't. They say they don't like ballyhoo, but they do. They like pyro. They like good theme songs. They like energy. They like, you know, a carnival barker out there telling you how great this match is going to be or how great this performer is going to be and all this sort of stuff. AEW can do some of that. They got a little bit of that with Excalibur, but everything that that makes wrestling feel big is evaporating. These guys are now just becoming like normal Joes. They come out wearing normal ass clothes. They're saying goofy shit into the microphone. They're coming out miniatures with bare feet and looking real silly and stuff. Like, all this stuff is just, it's for dorks. And I don't know how else to put it, but that's what it is. It's not trying to appeal to normal people who want to see an entertaining show. They're like, hey, if you want to come see the freaks and geeks, come watch the wrestling show. And this is kind of where I fall at when it comes to AEW. It's like, do I really want to go pay to go and the main event is going to be Hook versus Wheeler Yuta? I'm going to burn the fucking seats if that happens. So why waste my goddamn time? You know, it's not like they're promoting anything anywhere on any card that I feel like I need to see, like right now. You know, like, it's very difficult to sit through these shows. By the time Dynamite was almost over, like, I really walked away from the main event, almost literally. Because I don't watch Collision, and I felt like the main event was a Collision main event. And I don't need to see this. I don't really care. I know Samoa Joe's not going to lose to these fucking guys. I should just walk away. But I, maybe was typing on Twitter or something like that, and I ended up surviving it, and the match was over. But I'm looking at this thing, and I'm saying to myself, this product sucks. It has no energy. And it's not that it doesn't have an identity. It doesn't have that either. But there's positive momentum. There's something electric that is missing from AEW. That's also missing from WrestleMania. And it's because these people are focused so heavily on matches and making sure that the best wrestlers are best wrestling and all this horse shit. They're forgetting to entertain. Like, this is an entertainment business. That's what it is. You don't need to have the best actors. If you have a decent actor in a pretty decent movie and you put some nice bells and whistles around it, people are going to be happy. People will acquiesce to the cool factor. If something is cool, they will ignore if it's not the best, right? Ultimate Warrior and Sid and guys like this are not technically the best wrestlers in the world, but people think that they're cool. And because people think that they're cool, people want to see them. That's what it boils down to. AEW does not have anybody that's cool. There's nobody on the show that people want to see. Will Ospreay is on these shows all the time and the fans react very well to him. But I don't think Will Ospreay is cool. I think he's a dork. I think Kevin Knight could be cool. I don't know. He hasn't done anything. But Spitball Mike Bailey is a dork. Ricochet is a dork. Swerve, he's killing himself with this whole Booker T thing. He's not helping his cause. There was a time when people thought Swerve was cool. Now that, the more he talks, the less interested people are in him. Kenny Omega, people thought he was cool for a long time. And then he started doing weekly promos and you realize he can't fucking talk. And then you realize also he ain't got nothing to say. There's nothing going on in that brain of his. All he thinks about is video games and cats and shit. Like, who the fuck cares about this? Like, if I'm going to sit back and talk about the great Sasuke or Misawa, maybe he's got something to say, but he can't even really sell his own angles. And the Young Bucks, my God, they suck. So who is cool on this show? Who is people interested in seeing? Nobody. That's missing. It's the feeling that AEW fans are searching for is gone. You're not going to get that back. The energy, though, can come from somebody being cool and being somebody that people want to see. Come hell or high water, whether you think that's great or not. Something like when Ricky Saints showed up to NXT. People legitimately think he's cool. So they're like, oh, okay, it's interesting. People think Trick Williams is cool. They don't care they're not the best wrestlers. That's not the point. The point is they're entertaining personalities. You want to see what they're going to do. So even if they don't do anything, you're still tuning in to see what they're going to do. On AEW, there's nobody to tune in for. There's nobody that you absolutely need to see. That's a problem. They need to fix that because they're paying so much money for these talents. And none of these people are must see. And a lot of them are folks that have been there for a while. The Moxleys, the Omegas, Jericho. These guys have been around the block for ages. Edge, Christian. These guys have been there forever. They don't know how to make themselves interesting and cool on television. That's that WWE magic. It must be. It must be. But that's a problem. And I know that's really the cause of business going down in AEW. It's not just that, they're booking too many matches and there's too much, no selling and all that stuff. It's simple. People don't care about no selling. The Road Warriors no sold, but the Road Warriors were fucking cool. That's the thing. Who is cool in AEW? Nobody. The product is not cool. It's not cutting edge. They're doing shock value shit to get attention because nothing else gets attention. You got to mention Booker T or stab somebody to get attention. There's nothing on these shows that makes you energetic to see the show next week. That's a deep, resounding problem across the wrestling sphere right now, with the exception of maybe NXT. Pretty much every single show, TNA, if you even bother to watch MLW or something like that, it's the same thing. Why should I watch the next week's show? Why should I not watch the next show? Who is it? Who are you building around to make me want to see next week's show? That's the question. And some people will say, well, Swerve or Omega. Like, okay, look at those people. That's a small number of people. And shrinking, by the way. Because these folks are not featured enough on TV to be major points on the show. Even MJF, who used to be somewhat cool, is not. And the Hurt Business, yes, they're cool. I love them. But they're not on the show enough. And their segments, they did 2 segments with MJF. I don't need to watch the entire show just to see those 2 segments. So, I've rambled long enough. Thanks for everybody for stopping by. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you guys later.
Skin tone, so why attach yourself and piggyback the wealth you didn't earn or lack yourself? I'm telling you to own up to your own success and failures. It's a reason why these sleazy guys